For those of you who like to sew, or those of you who are beginning to sew, you're going to start accumulating fabric. And before you know it, you're going to have a fabric stash. Having too much fabric can come at a cost. But how do you know if you have too much fabric? I'm Howell. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm all about crafting, sewing, any kind of DIY projects, and showing you how to make them easier, more efficient, and less stressful. And I may even save you a little bit of money. In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to declutter, organize, and keep your fabric stash in check. I love fabric. It's something I think I got from my grandmother. I have two grandmothers who were excellent seamstresses. I grew up watching them make quilts, clothing, home decor, and all kinds of stuff. And one of my favorite things to do was go to the fabric store with them. Having a fabric stash does come in handy when you need to make a simple drape or curtain, when you want to make a handmade baby gift or something, or if you need to mend something, you have some fabric to work with. If you're like me, if you've been sewing a while, you probably have fabric that you don't need, that has been just sitting there and taking up a lot of valuable real estate in your home. So I'm going to walk you through the process of taking a good hard look of what you have and maybe how to organize it and make it more efficient. So how do you know if you have too much? Well, I like to think of it as symptoms. Just like we have symptoms in our body, you're going to have some red flags that tell you, maybe I have a little too much. And some of those are when you go to make a project and you're looking through your fabric stash and you start getting very overwhelmed because you can't find the piece that you thought you wanted to use. You start seeing pieces that you didn't realize that you had. I've been noticing in my sewing space, because it's been a while since I have gone through my stuff and organized, that I'm feeling a little anxious. I feel a little claustrophobic. And so when I free up that space, I know it's going to feel wonderful. I've already started that process and it already feels good. Or you have so much fabric stuffed in an area that you really can't see what you have. And it really does drain your energy to have all that clutter. And another symptom is that you just don't have the room. Maybe you find that you're having to use another closet or another bin. So we're going to talk about some things that you can do to prevent that. So you may be wondering, how did I get in this big mess anyway? How did I end up having so much fabric? Well, for those of you who sew and know those, if you're like me, when you go to the fabric store, you can walk in thinking that you're going to get just one piece of fabric. You need a certain color, and you walk out with a lot more than you intended. Or those times that you come to the cutting table and you're not quite sure how much you need, so you'll get an extra yard and they say it's on sale. Oh, at a really good price, I'll take the whole bolt. I've been there, done that. I do have that a little bit more in control, but it does catch you off guard sometimes, and you find yourself just having way too much. So the first thing that you'll want to do is take an inventory. It's not like you have to write down how many yards of fabric you have. Just be realistic and look at your things, and are your things easy to find? Are the colors easy to find? If you just need little pieces of scraps for scrappy sewing, are they in a central location? How do you organize them? Now I have a video tutorial showing you how to organize your fabric pieces, and you can watch that. I go over some details and some tips on how to do that. We're not going to go really in detail about that, but having your fabric organized is a good thing. Start going through your bins or wherever you keep your fabric. If you're stacking them, take the fabric and be honest and ask a few questions. Do I really love this piece of fabric? Am I going to really ever make anything with this fabric? Let me share with you a scenario of flannel that I just experienced this last month. We have a new grandchild in our world, and I have been waiting for the day that I can make things for this baby, because I love to sew for babies, but I haven't really had anyone to sew for except for friends and people that have babies. So I was thrilled to finally be able to make some flannel blankets, some receiving blankets, some bibs. I have been saving bright colored fabrics, bright flannels, and things that I like, but the trend now is more neutral colors, and I went to make a blanket for her in the colors that she liked, just the neutral, soft colors. I didn't have anything. So, of course, saving all that flannel, over those flannel cells to make these things really wasn't helpful. I had to go buy new flannel pieces and new fabric, which was costly, worth it. But maybe it's time to either use up some of that flannel, make some blankets, donate them to the hospital, to shelters or something, to use up the fabric, or let go of it. And so that, it just comes to say that things change, trends change. So you don't want to be too excessive. There is balance. So just something to remember and take note of. Something I recommend is when you do start to declutter your space and your fabric is to do it in increments of time. Don't overwhelm yourself by digging into the whole project, your whole closet or whatever, and then when you get tired and fatigued and overwhelmed, you have a big mess. Maybe take one bin at a time per day, maybe a couple, and stop before you start to get tired or overwhelmed. And I do like to recycle, so I have a lot of t-shirts that have good fabric on them. I have a lot of denim to use on really fun projects using upcycled jeans. So there is a place to have some fabrics on hand. Like I said before, there's just balance. And I think I have told you, when you're in a store and you see a fabric or a piece of upcycled clothing that the fabric is in good shape or that you really love, I've told you and suggested that you get some of it. You don't have to buy the whole bolt, because you know what? You may not ever see it again, and you keep thinking that when you're making this project of that piece of fabric and you didn't get it. And they can be hard to find. I recommend setting some rules or some limits so that your fabric stash doesn't get out of control. Something that I have started doing is one in, one out. If I go to the fabric store and buy a yard of fabric, I either need to, when I put it in my bin or whatever place that I'm going to put it, I need to take something out of there, either donate it or make something with it. How would that be? And if you have plenty of room, that's fine. And if you're just new and just starting to get an accumulation of prints and colors, go for it. But have some kind of limit. If the bin, I have decided if the bin is too full and I can't get anything else in there, it's time to get rid of some things. So my fleece bin, and you know those sales that they have at Christmas time or before Christmas or after Christmas in the winter. Great deals on fleece by the yard. And there for a while I was just stacking up, trying to get every color in there. And it's a lot. And so this year I've decided that I'm going to take it down to maybe one bin and take some of that fabric and make a bunch of mittens and hats and scarves and things that I can donate to shelters or people who need them. And I do have some fun patterns that you can use to make mittens, fingerless mittens, hats and scarves and things that you might want to check out. So that's one thing I'm going to do with my fleece fabric this winter. Let's go over a little bit and touch on how to store your fabric. Now, I know all of us are in different situations. We have different storage spaces. Some of us have a lot, some of us have very little. And you're just going to have to decide on what works for you and what is too much. And you just always go back to those symptoms. Does it make me feel anxious when I go to make a project because everything's just shoved in? Or, go back to those things and decide what is too much. And storing them in certain ways will really help that process when you want to make something. And you can easily go through, oh, I need some blue. And I have in mind of this blue to make this trim with. Or so you can just easily, like I have, these are my smaller pieces. These are my bigger pieces of yardage. And I have my cabinet with all the fun little mini bolts, and I show you how to make those in that tutorial as well. Or I have drawers. Drawers are really nice to pull out and be able to see what you have available. If you're into quilting, you're into scrap quilting, having little pieces of fabric comes in handy. You can save those, but you can get out of control with that too. So I try to limit myself to this little jar here that I have. It's a cookie jar, but I love it for saving my scraps. But it's about full. So what does that mean? There's some scrappy sewing projects coming up that you might want to watch. And it's kind of eye candy too, right? This is kind of pleasing to the eye, and I love bright and cheery fabric. So why is it so hard to let go of some of your fabric? Well, it takes a lot of brain energy to ask yourself all these questions when you're going through your fabric, and most likely you'll just say, oh, I'll do it later, or it's not that big of a deal. What are the benefits of going through your fabric and organizing it and letting some of it go? Well, you're going to free up some space. You'll be able to find your fabric more easily if you organize it in colors and size of fabrics. I have suggestions in that video that you'll want to check out that make it a little easier and less stressful when you want to go make something. I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm going to take you and show you a little bit of how much fabric that I have and what are my plans to do with it. So let's take a little jaunt into the next room and show you what I have in there. So this is my sewing room, and in our storage room, I have a lot of my crafting and sewing supplies here. Ideally, I would like it to be all in the same room, but it is what it is, right? So I have sectioned out my flannel bins in colors, 4 of them, and I have another one in another closet that I'll show you. A couple bin of knits. These are upcycled shirts that I plan to make things with, which is really fun to do. I also have that bin of shirts that I am going to reduce it down to 2 bins if I can. Now this is another closet with fabric in it. Now for those of you who know me, I love to upcycle sweaters, so I have several bins of sweaters, wool sweaters that I felt down and make some really fun things with. I have scraps of the sweaters. I have more fleece. I have fleece in my other room. I have categorized them in colors. These really need to be gone through because there are things in here that I've saved a long time and haven't used. There's another bin of flannel, fleece. Yeah. So there is some sorting, some letting go that needs to be done here. And of course I have my bin, big bin of upcycled jeans. I have shown before a video on making a really fun quilt using jeans, and there's a lot of fun projects, but you know what? That is out of control, I think. I have decided that I want to take one more shelf of the bigger pieces of fabric and put the little ones in a drawer, and then that will be my maximum. What I'm going to do is I have these plastic drawers that work really nice for these bins and fit really nice in there so that when I pull them out, I can see easily. And another thing, they won't get the sunlight exposure that I'm a little bit concerned about, but if I had more drawers, that would be wonderful. I'd probably do the bins that way as well. But so I'm going to fill these 3 with these bins. And these plastic containers work really well. I have the link on my website. I'll put the link in the description below as well on my other video of fabric organization. And this is a drawer of my felted wool scraps that come in handy. I make a lot of applique, little hearts and things on projects. Over here I have my bigger yardage fabric bins. And like I said before, I am going to go through these and maybe get rid of some of them. This is more flannel, my fleece, and one more little closet that I have in my sewing room that really needs to be gone through and I do have a bin of upholstery fabric, which does come in handy when I need to make something durable. There's my muslin fabric. Another bolt of something that I've had a long time that needs to go. And here is my bin of scraps, the bigger pieces that I have for those mid-size scraps. And one more big bin of flannel. Now we're talking, this is when I'd go to the big flannel sales after Christmas at Joann, and my sisters and I would take our kids and have a grocery cart full of flannel. Now look at, I mean, really? I'm just like, what was I thinking? Bins of yellow and this pink, thinking I'd make all these fun baby quilts. Well, I don't know. So there's one more thing that I want to mention is that we can have the mindset of scarcity and think that, what if I will need that someday? When we're trying to declutter and let some things go, I've started to just think that and believe that if I needed it, a certain color or a certain pattern, that I would be able to find it, or that if we can't save everything. And so I'm just trusting that if I need it or when I need it, I'll get it then. Now, I love to sew, I love fabric, but when it starts to take over your life, when it starts to make you feel anxious because you have too much and your space is becoming overcrowded, it's time to let some things go and free yourself up so that you can enjoy sewing and using up that fabric. I hope you found at least a few things that you can implement and use, and that it might inspire you to get into your fabric stash, your fabric, or start keeping your fabric organized, whichever way you want to do it. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions or concerns, just like always, leave a comment in the section below and I will get back to you. Also, if you have some other great ideas on how to declutter your fabric, I would love to know, and I'm sure someone else would too. If you like my content or you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, make sure you do that. And if you want to be notified when I put new things up, make sure you're clicking the bell in your notification settings. If you'd like to see other crafting and DIY projects, go to my website, youmakeitsimple.com. There you'll also find my pattern store where you can buy and download printable PDF patterns. So grab yourself a coffee, carve out some time, get into your fabric stash. You've got this. See you next time.